Good morning, Econ students. Today we're going to be doing Notes 2.2, the American Free Enterprise. Your essential question: what roles do consumers and the government play in our free enterprise economy? So, some questions we're going to answer: the benefits of the free enterprise. So, what is the free enterprise system? What roles do consumers play? And what role does the government play? So, the free enterprise is an economic system where few restrictions are placed on business activities and ownership. So, the government has minimal interference, has limited restrictions on trade, and government does not get too far involved as much as they can. A brief history: this has sort of been the system we've had in the United States since we started out as a nation. So, since the 1700s, people have been trying to get the government out of businesses. But as time has progressed, we've realized that we do need some government interventions. So, in the United States, advocates for the free enterprise system continue to fight for fewer restrictions, and they fight against any new developments that would restrict the free enterprise system. They take more of a laissez faire approach, thinking that the government should not be involved in these decisions. So, the basic principles of the free enterprise system: we have seven principles here. So, we have profit motive, the drive for the improvement of material well being. People want to get involved in our economic system because they want to make money. That is the purpose of the capitalist system, is to make more money for yourself. They also want open opportunity, so the ability for anyone to be able to compete in the marketplace. So if any of you wanted to start a business, you have the opportunity to do that. We want legal equality, so of course, equal rights for all, equal opportunities for all, private property rights, so the right to control your property, your possessions, your land as you wish. Free contracts, so deciding what agreements you want to take part of. Voluntary exchange, the right to decide when you want to buy a product, when you want to sell a product. And competition. So we want rivalry among different sellers. We don't want monopolies. We want different people competing against each other so we have the best possible outcome in our products. Consumers are the ones who purchase things, right? A fundamental purpose of the free enterprise system is giving consumers the freedom to make their own economic choices. So, when you're buying products, you get to indicate to producers how much to make, what to produce, because they want to produce things that you, of course, want to buy. They don't want to make things that you don't want to buy. They want to make profit, so therefore, they want to be responsive to the consumers. Interest groups are also private organizations that can try to persuade public officials to vote according to the interest of their members. So we have interest groups like the National Rifle Association. Of course, they are promoting Second Amendment rights and they want the United States citizens to be able to bear arms. So they don't want the government to have any sort of limitations on their rights to own weapons, which in fact turns to the producers of these weapons because then they want to create more guns so that people can buy them. So the government has to be involved in the American free enterprise system to protect American citizens from any potential problems that could arise from the production of products. We have public disclosure laws in the United States, which are laws that require companies to provide us consumers with information about products. So, for instance, whenever you buy some food at the grocery store, you can look on the back and there will always be a label that tells you the calories, that tells you the sodium, the vitamins, all the ingredients that are listed in that product so that you can be aware as a consumer. Public interest also has to do with the concerns of the public as a whole. So, this is things like environmental protection or making sure that the food that you are buying, that you're consuming, is sanitary and safe for you to have. So, all of those things require the government to be involved. Promoting growth and stability. Macroeconomics is the study of the behavior and the decision making of the entire economy. So, if we're looking at the entire US and the whole economy, that would be macroeconomics. A business cycle is a period of macroeconomic expansion followed by a period of contraction. The way we measure our macroeconomy, so the economy of the whole United States, is through what we call GDP, and that's gross domestic product. GDP is the total value of all final goods and services produced in the United States or in any country in a particular year. So it looks at all the things that we have produced in the United States, counts those all up, and that equals our GDP. And this sort of shows you how that business cycle works. So, a business cycle is a period of growth, a peak, and then it's followed by contraction, so a recession. So, on average, business cycles will last about 6 years, and they continue along this scale every 6 years or so. The government also promotes economic strength. So, our policymakers have to work to try to stabilize the economy. So, one indicator that they always look at is our employment or our unemployment numbers. So, the government aims to provide jobs for everyone who is able to work. We don't want high unemployment rates. Right now, we have higher unemployment rates than normal because of COVID. COVID has caused a lot of people in the United States to lose their jobs. So, it's the job of the government to ensure that we're getting people back to work in a safe manner. We also want growth. So each generation of Americans want to do better than the previous ones. Your parents will want you to do better than they did. Their parents wanted them to do better than them, et cetera, as it goes on. We also want stability in the economy. We want confidence in the economy and our financial institutions. We want to make sure that our money is safe in banks, that things will be okay with our economy as we go on through society. The government can also encourage innovation. So, technology is the process used to produce these goods or services, and federal agencies can help encourage this innovation by giving grants for research and development products. So, the government can actually give money. This happens a lot of time in colleges. They'll give money for people to research specific things. They also give people patents, and a patent means once you invent something new, that you have the exclusive right to produce it and to sell it for 20 years. So that means if you come up with some sort of new invention, it's yours for 20 years. Someone can't just make a knockoff and start selling the same thing. You have the exclusive right to produce that product for 20 years. And then after that, people can start making those knockoffs. So the government provides public goods. Public goods are shared goods or services for which it would be impractical to make consumers pay individually and to exclude non payers. So, public goods, we can think of examples like police departments, like the fire department, things like that. If we had a fire department that was just paid for by individual funds, not provided for by the government, then once there was a fire, if there was a fire happening to your house, you would have to call and you'd have to provide some sort of insurance, you'd have to pay for it, all of those things. It's just not very practical in an emergency situation. So public goods are these shared goods that the government pays for through tax dollars. So public goods are also funded by the public sector, like I said, through tax dollars. The part of the economy that involves transactions of the government, these are all paid for by your tax dollars. Free riders are people who would choose not to pay for a certain good or service, but who would get the benefits of it anyway if it's provided by a public good. Now, all of us pay taxes, so none of us are really free riders, but we're all participating and we all benefit from these public goods. The public sector also pays for major infrastructure projects like highways or airports. Those are not paid for by individuals, those are paid for by the government. Only the public sector, the government, has the resources in order to be able to pay for these things. Of course, you could see that airports, freeway systems, they're complicated, they're expensive, they take a lot of work. So it makes sense that they would be paid for by the government. So this is just an example here up in Folsom, pretty close to us north. You can see all of these things are paid for by our tax dollars, by government. These are all public goods. So the Folsom Lake, the dam that's provided, the prison that's there, all of those things are public goods. In California, we no longer have private prisons, they are all publicly funded. So all of these things are paid for by tax dollars. A market failure is a situation in which the market on its own does not distribute resources efficiently. So this happened most recently in 2008. That's when we had the last major recession in the United States. I know you all watched that documentary that saw this happen in 2008 and in 1929. So those 2 years are both years that we had massive market failures. So the Great Depression, of course, in the 20s, and the Great Recession in the late 2000s, early 2010s. Externalities are economic side effects. So in econ, we call side effects externalities. Okay, so these can either be positive or negative side effects. They generate benefits or costs to someone other than the person deciding what to produce or consume. So, an example here, if we were using that dam that was from Folsom Lake, the building of a new dam can create both positive and negative externalities. So, if we have a dam and we create a new lake, we can possibly have new sources of hydroelectric power. We can have swimming, boating, fishing, lakefront views for houses, all kinds of positive externalities. But we can also have some negative externalities to that. So, it can disrupt the wildlife, it can disrupt fish migration, overcrowding in the area because of tourism, pollution from people not cleaning up after themselves, noise from the racing boats, things like that. All of those things can also be negative externalities. So when we make an economic decision, we have to weigh both the positive and negatives. So the pros and the cons to any decision. Next is providing a safety net. So the role that the government plays in fighting poverty. So the poverty threshold is the income level below that which is needed to support families or households. The government creates this list every year. I'll show you on the next slide exactly what the poverty threshold is. It's determined by the federal government, it's adjusted every single year, and it determines how much money they think the average American family needs in order to survive. Welfare is the general term that refers to any government aid to low income people. Now, welfare generally has a negative connotation to it. People like to assume that welfare is something bad, but welfare is something that almost every single American has benefited from in some way or another. So, for instance, all of us here in West Sacramento, if any of you want to go to community college next year for free, you can get 2 years of community college free. All you have to do is fill out your FAFSA and you get that provided by the government. That's a welfare program. That is a program that's offered to everyone in West Sacramento. It was started out to ensure that everyone could go to community college if they wanted to. We have welfare programs like the GI Bill, which provides all of our veterans who serve in the military. Once they get out of the military, they can have a free college education. They can be provided with home loans and business loans with no money down. All of those are welfare programs. So generally, people think of things like food stamps, but it's so much more than that. So, as I said, I was going to show you the federal poverty guidelines. So, this is the 2020 federal poverty guidelines. Now, remember, the federal government is in Washington, D.C., so they are making this decision on average for the entire United States. But as we all know, the cost of living in California is very high. So, if we look at one person individually, if the family size is just one, let's say you all move out and you go and live by yourselves once you graduate in your own apartment, and it says that you are not under the poverty guidelines if you make more than $12,760. Now, if any of you have looked into apartments or know how much rent is, $12,760 is not going to get you very far. Maybe you'll find a cheap apartment and you can get that to pay for a one bedroom apartment or a studio, but then you won't have any money for anything else. So, this is not really something that's beneficial for California. It has increased 2% since last year, but this obviously is a very faulty guideline. It says for a family of four, you're not considered to be under poverty levels if you make less than $26,000. Providing for a family of four with $26,000 would definitely be difficult. So these numbers are faulty. They are not exactly California level numbers. So redistribution programs. Cash transfers are direct payments of money to eligible people. So we have redistribution programs that give people money directly. So we have TANF, which is the Temporary Assistance of Needy Families, which allows individual states to decide how to use those federal funds and give out money to individual people. So, like right now in California, we have a lot of unemployed people. So, those people who are unemployed are able to get cash, I think it's every 2 weeks from unemployment compensation. Social Security also provides direct cash transfers to people who are retired or people who have disabilities. They want to provide stability, so that's why we offer unemployment to people who have lost their jobs. And we also offer workman's compensation to those who were injured while on the job. Other redistribution programs include in kind benefits or medical benefits. So, in kind benefits are goods and services provided by the government for free or at greatly reduced prices. Medical benefits are things like Medicare and Medicaid that provide medical for people who cannot afford it. They provide that health insurance. We have the Affordable Care Act, which has expanded that, also known as Obamacare, that was passed during the Obama administration. And then, of course, we have education benefits. So, once again, if you file your FAFSA, fill out that FAFSA starting now. You can do it in October. If you fill that out, then you can get education benefits. So you can be provided things like grants or loans that are at a low interest rate to help you pay for college. So in the United States, we have over 18 million businesses in America. America is considered the land of opportunity because people can have some sort of economic success. We have so many resources. We have natural resources, we have a lot of open land, we have a lot of immigrants that are coming to the United States to benefit off of these systems. But we also have the free enterprise system, which gives people the freedom and flexibility to try out their business ideas and compete in the marketplace. The Constitution also protects people's economic interests. So your property is protected under the Fifth and 14th Amendments. We also have rules on taxation. So Congress has the power to collect taxes, and the 16th Amendment offers us taxes for our income, which, of course, we know is used for all of those government-funded programs we talked about earlier in these notes. Federal and state agencies, they benefit from the public, so they are trying to protect the well-being of all Americans in this country. They try not to get involved with individual businesses, but eventually they do have to get involved when things need to be protected for American citizens. Okay, so they focus on environmental protection, zoning laws, they try to protect individuals. We have things like the Food and Drug Administration that protects the food and medications that we are consuming into our bodies. The EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency, to ensure that we are not getting polluted, having to deal with things like lead in water. OSHA protects workers' rights. We have the Consumer Product Safety Commission, all kinds of government organizations that help to protect the safety and well being of American citizens. And that's the end of your notes for today. So don't forget to write a summary, couple sentences about what you learned about the American free enterprise system.